Being an entrepreneur can be a lonely endeavor. You're all by yourself sometimes trying to figure things out. If you stay in business long enough, you'll discover that there's always problems that you have to figure out. Nothing ever works right, or the way you think it should, anyway. My biggest problem I face daily is keeping business coming in. I have one employee who I need to keep employed. He does good work, and I don't want to lose him. I can't tell you how much money I've spent trying to keep this business afloat. It's a money pit for sure. One wrong move and it's over. I'm already losing money, but the last thing I'm going to do is give up. It's crazy. I'm trying to stay focused on business, all the while trying to keep my podcast going and studying for the bar exam. I'm studying for a future I don't even really want. My other business, doing child custody matters, is also a struggling endeavor. All the while, I'm going through a divorce. That's been the hardest part. But in the end, I'm determined to prove myself. I know I'm supposed to be proving it to myself, but I would be lying if I didn't say I am trying to prove myself to my wife. She's the only person whose opinion matters. Not because I'm heartbroken, although I am, but because I know if I can make a believer out of her, then I know I have truly transformed into the man I know I can be. My wife has never been gentle with my feelings, and that's a good thing, I guess. This podcast thing has been slow going. The way I see it, I have two problems. One, I never learned how to think. And two, I never learned how to be disciplined. I have a lot of ideas for my shows, but I don't know how to sit and think long enough about what I want to say or how I'm going to say it. I've always had trouble sitting down long enough to think things out. That's the struggle, I guess. But what I do have is optimism and the entrepreneurial spirit. I've always had that. Ever since I started my first business, or at least my first attempt. Believe it or not, it was an auto detailing business, just like the one I'm doing now. I started out at my mom's house. I had about $100 worth of product. I cleaned my buddy's car for $40 while him and his girl went to a bar hopping or down the street from where my mom's house is at. When he came back, he had a beautiful looking car again. It was a BMW, if I remember correctly. A nice car for a guy who just sold weed. That was the only car I did. I never made business cards or found other business. I was a total flop. I quit after the first weekend. It wasn't the first time I quit something either, and it wouldn't be the last. You see, quitting is learned behavior. It gets easier and easier to do with time, but harder and harder to live with too. The pain of failure can really start to weigh heavy on a man. They say the only way not to be defeated by it is to put it into your mind that you're never going to give up. You have to learn to be bold and make yourself comfortable with risk, they say. You have to be willing to take criticism from the people you love and resist the temptation to believe them. One thing I know is that you have to be a little bit crazy. Starting a business is sort of like skydiving with no backup chute, and you pack the only one you have, yourself, even though you have no experience packing a parachute. Things are bound to go wrong at some point. You just have to believe that you can troubleshoot any problem when problems arise. And problems will come. It's a virtual certainty. I'm not sure how things are going to turn out, but I can tell you this. You can only fail if failure is one of the options. I'm not sure how I'm going to be successful in business. I'm not sure how I'm going to fix my marriage. But if there's one thing I know, it's that I'm in the driver's seat. I could take my life in any direction I want. There's always more that can be done. No matter what people say, it ain't over unless you accept defeat. A guy I know just passed away from stage 4 colon cancer. He was a lot younger than me. We weren't close friends, but we were training partners for a time. We had many conversations on the mats. He was a real good guy. His passing made me think, my time is coming too. I don't know the day or the hour, but it is coming. So I better get on this thing, I thought. So if you have any advice for this podcast, you can comment below if you want, or you can share something about yourself. My podcast only has a couple of listeners at the moment, so, I will read it. That's all I have to say for now, but I would like to share a verse. I think it's the most important verse in the Bible. The verse I'm referring to is Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Explanation. This verse is part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5-7, where he addresses worry, anxiety, and priorities in life. To give it context, this verse is leading up to when Jesus talks about how people worry about what they're going to eat or drink or wear. He points out that God takes care of the birds of the air and the flowers of the field. How much more will he care for us? So what this means is we seek first the kingdom of God, to make God's rule and reign in your life your top priority. It's about aligning your heart with his will, his values, and his principle and his purposes. His righteousness refers to living in a way that reflects God's character, honesty, justice, purity, mercy, and love. Not self-righteousness, but a righteousness that comes from God and is lived out in obedience. And the last part, all these things will be added to you, is a promise. When you prioritize God, he will provide for your needs. Not necessarily all your wants, but all your needs. And this includes physical, emotional, and spiritual provisions. And how this is applied? Well, this verse invites believers to stop chasing after material things or worrying about the future. Instead, focus on the living God and focus on living a God-centered life and trust that he will take care of the rest. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with a friend, comment, like, or subscribe. And I will see you on the next episode.